Why are millions of children, in effect, imprisoned, stuck in their government-assigned schools? They're unable to leave for a different school, one that might be a much better choice for them. Parents have all kinds of choice when it comes to picking our kids' food, their clothing, their toys, all sorts of things. But when it comes to school, the kids might as well be in jail for all the choice they have.
I want my child educated. I want better for my children.
Okay, public schools are not exactly jail, but it is a government monopoly. And that takes away your choices. What if you bought groceries the way your kids are assigned schools? People would spend to move to the neighborhood with the good grocery store. Crazy as that is, we accept it with public education. Public schools are enough like prison that parents who escape celebrate.
Yes!
And those who can't escape cry.
Maybe now you wanted to go to that school?
Why is it so important?
Because I got a 12-year-old graduating from the 6th grade, and she can't spell girl. She can't read.
Don't be fooled! I bought charter school!
But criticizing the government monopoly can make you unpopular. What's she doing that's got them so mad?
Whoever can educate kids should be offering high-quality education.
People look to their leaders for answers.
On behalf of all of America's children,
we've got to eliminate programs that don't work to make room for ones that do.
But do they?
The president doesn't believe that vouchers are a long-term answer to our educational problems.
Well, I do. I say competition is the answer everywhere in the world.
In poor areas like this, the majority of school children are in private school, and these schools outperform the government schools.
How bad are America's government schools? People call them public schools, but I think government schools is the right word. Anyway, how bad? You've heard about the test results. On international tests, American students rank behind much poorer countries that spend much less on education. We're down below Slovenia and Kazakhstan. One poll found most young adults can't find Afghanistan on a map. 11% couldn't find the United States on a map. I once gave part of the international test to students in New Jersey and in Belgium. Belgium has government-run schools, like here, but their education money is attached to the kids, so parents can take it to any school, government or private. That forces the schools to compete, and that makes them better. The New Jersey school was a good one. New Jersey schools test better than most other state schools. Still, the Belgian kids cleaned the American kids' clock. They got 70% correct versus 40% for the Jersey kids. One Belgian student said, "This test was so easy. If the kids in America couldn't do this, they're stupid." So, are American kids stupid? Are you stupid?
No, of course. I don't think we're stupid. We try hard.
So you're a parent of a school child in New York?
Yes, I am.
What, public school?
A charter school.
Charter school.
Yes.
So, same question. These Belgian kids, see, the American kids must be stupid.
Well, first of all, there's nothing in Belgium better than in the United States. But they're probably doing better because the money is attached to the kids. That puts pressure on the educators to do well, because if they don't, the parents will take their kids somewhere else and their failures will be illuminated. And I think that that's what we need here. And I think that's why charter schools do so well.
I've confronted teachers' unions and educrats about our poor test results in America. They say, problem is, we don't spend enough. American teachers are underpaid, they say. Kids don't have books, and so on. You've heard this. But it's not true. I mean, look at this. Since 1980, inflation-adjusted spending per student, this is it, has nearly doubled. It's adjusted for inflation. I mean, we're spending 3 times as much as we spent when I was in school. But look at the test scores. Totally flat. Much more money, flat test scores. And how much money? Today, America spends almost $11,000 a year per student. Then, teachers' unions make it worse. When your job and salary is pretty much guaranteed, why work harder? Many teachers want to, but it's easy to lose your passion when the teacher next door makes just as much as you do, and he doesn't care. or even show up. The head of New York City's public schools says we tolerate mediocrity. One reason is union contracts. Here's one. More than 100 pages of work rules. Union monopolies tend to create obstacles like this. The rules make it almost impossible to fire even the worst teacher. I once confronted the union boss about that, and she said, the rules are there to protect teachers' due process. A principal could fire a bad teacher. They just don't bother to go through the steps. So I went to look at the steps. Here they are. Look at this thing. Each box is a different step that they have to take to fire a teacher. So no wonder they don't even try to fire the teachers. This gets worse. It goes on here. So because this is just so impossible, sometimes they just transfer the worst teachers to other schools. They even have a name for that. They call it the dance of the lemons. Would be funny, except it could be your kid who has that teacher. Kevin Chavez used to chair the Education Committee of the Washington, D.C. City Council. You have ideas about that?
Well, we know what works, John. Like you said, autonomy and choice. The problem is we in this country, with our government-run schools, we haven't had the courage to implement what works. Even great teachers know it's hard for them to work in a good government school because the system gets in the way. What we really need to do is be honest and direct about what's going on. And frankly, we've got to destroy the work rules that fuel this bureaucracy, this monopolistic system that's anti-kids.
All right, by work rules, you're now talking about the Washington Teachers Union work rules.
Yeah.
And I assume the union just wants to make sure teachers aren't abused, and they care about the kids.
Yeah, we're fine with teachers getting the benefits they should and make sure that they're taken care of in the way that's beneficial for them. But the big problem is a lot of these work rules are anti-kids. They're anti-education. For instance, in D.C., they insisted on a clause that made every teacher leave the premises by 3:15. They couldn't stay even if they want to, and they locked the door shut because of work rule hour requirements. So you had a lot of these young...
The teacher wanted to stay late and prepare more? Or
and the
work
union
with
said
kid?
you must leave the premises.
Why?
Because they only had a set number of hours under the union contract.
And if some teachers were working later, it might reflect poorly on the teachers?
Absolutely. So you had these young, enterprising teachers that wanted to help little Johnny with his homework
like
after
teachers
school.
from Teach for
Teach
America.
for America, and they were told you couldn't do so. In California, the work rules are so crazy that a teacher gets tenure for life after just 2 years on the job. And there's no review, and they have a job for the rest of their career. This is not what's in the best interest of kids, and as a result, what we see in Belgium and other countries is they focus on the autonomy. They focus on making sure parents have choices, and they offer that competition so that you don't automatically walk into a job for life, even if you're not educating kids.
When I've said that to the teachers union officials, they've said, well, education's too important to leave it to competition. Competition is for video games and movies and cars, not for education.
And you know what? If we didn't have competition, we wouldn't have had video games and movies and cars, because that's what led to all of these things. You know, if it weren't for competition, we wouldn't have a BlackBerry or an iPhone. We would still have that rotary dial system. And that's what's happened to our kids. A lot of these families and these kids, they know what's going on, but oftentimes they don't know what they don't know because they haven't been given an option of something better than the neighborhood school, which is not working.
Government monopolies don't do anything very well. When the teachers union says education is too important to leave it to competition, I say the opposite is true. Education is too important to leave it to a government monopoly.